What's up, everyone? Welcome to another week of Tax Tip Tuesday discussion. Today's a conversation that I think everyone will find intriguing because it pretty much impacts a lot of different types of individuals, right? So, I'll be talking about the new rescue plan that was created as a part of the bill that was signed into law last week, right? So, there's a lot to talk about there. So, stick around, make sure you grasp as much information as you can, and of course, if it doesn't directly impact you, I do encourage you to go ahead and share it with someone within your circle. You never know what this information can do for them, okay? So, with that being said, my name is Rose Brown, also known as the Accountant Therapist, and I am the CEO of Brown's Fulfillment Consulting and Accounting Firm, where we provide an array of accounting services, of course, including tax preparation. And regardless of where you are in the US, and we are located in Center City, Philadelphia, our services can extend to whichever state that you're located in, okay? And we do work with both individuals and businesses, so don't worry, okay? And if you do need to get in contact with us, certainly shoot us an email, info@brownsfca.com, or give us a phone call, 215-717-8293. And if you do want to just browse around on our website and see what's going on there, you can visit us at www.brownsfca.com. And then if you do need to follow us on social media platform, that's Browns with an S _ FCA, and ask for myself at the Accountant Therapist, okay? So there's a lot of different things that I would like to conquer in this video. Really, a lot, okay? The first thing I want to note is a lot of individuals who may have filed their tax return early in the year or really at the break of tax season, right? They have not yet received their refund, their status is still processing, things of that sort. And actually, it's made the news because it's happening to millions of people. It's not something on your end as of right now, it's the processing on the IRS's end. Do remember that they are processing these stimulus payments that are going out. They are also processing returns and refunds, all of these sorts of things. So if you've not yet received your refund, it's not necessarily your fault. Actually, as of right now, I wouldn't say to think that it's your fault. You just need to allow them some time, additional time to do so. And then the next thing is, if you used a third party to basically facilitate how the tax cost of the tax return was going to be taken out of your refund, that could be a reason why you have not yet received your refund either, because they're basically the middleman, right? So they have to get it from the IRS and then get it over to you. So there could be some issues there, especially with the stimulus payment right now, right? It may be going through them because you had your refund pay for your tax preparation, okay? All right, so let's recap last week really quickly. Last week I talked about business entities, okay? The sole proprietors, and that includes if you're a Lyft, Uber, side hustle, you're a sole proprietor. If you have an LLC, a partnership, an S corporation, or a C corporation, I talked about all of those different entities from a tax perspective. And each of them have different requirements and different characteristics that really renders individual assessment, meaning one size doesn't fit all. You want to find the entity that best fits your needs. So if you need additional information, head on over to last week's video and just kind of watch through and grasp all that information. And of course, if you have questions, you know where to find me, okay? So with that being said, let's dive into this week. So again, we're talking about the COVID-19 rescue plan. There are many different moving parts to this bill. It's $1.9 trillion. Of course, there's a million moving parts to it, right? But I'm looking at it from a tax perspective. And there are four main components that I want to discuss today. And I really want everyone to grasp an understanding of that, because the numbers, you'll need to make a note of the numbers, the requirements, eligibilities. All of these are taken in effect with the regulation that was recently put in law, okay? So the four components that I'm talking about today are the stimulus payment eligibility, unemployment compensation, child tax credit, and the earned income credit, okay? You've heard me talk about these two in the past, but we'll certainly be revisiting them, okay? So each of these may have had an increase, a decrease, some type of regulation to it, okay? So I'm going to start off first with the stimulus payment eligibility. In the past, you would have had a little bit more wiggle room as it pertains to phase out. And when I say phase out, I mean you stop getting the full amount to a certain extent, to the point where you no longer get the full amount of the stimulus. So the new stimulus, which I'm sure a lot of you may have already started receiving over the weekend, which is pretty exciting, I know. If you are single and your adjusted gross income is less than $75,000, you get that full $1,400. Okay, and that's for the third stimulus. But if your income goes up to $80,000, you completely phase out. Okay, so between 75 and 80, you're phasing out until you completely cut off, and that's if you're single. If you're married, filing joint, that amount basically doubles. So married, filing joint, 150. Once you hit $150,000, it starts phasing out until 160,000. It completely phases out. Okay, and as I said, it's worth up to $1,400 until you start phasing out. Now, what really changed there versus the prior two stimulus packages is the dependent eligibility. Okay, so in the past, the dependent needed to be under the age of 17. Now, they're allowing eligible dependents, not taking into consideration age per se, but they have to be eligible in order for you to receive a stimulus payment on their behalf. So, for example, in the past, let's say your child was in college, they're 19, they weren't eligible for what was being given out for dependents. However, now they're now eligible. So if you have your adult child who's in college or an adult parent that you're claiming on your return, you're able to obtain stimulus payment on their behalf. So if you think about, for example, you are a married filing joint couple, right? And you have 3 eligible dependents. You get $1,400, your spouse get $1,400, and all other 3 dependents you get $1,400 for. So that's $1,400 times 5 to give you $7,000. Now, that's a big chunk of change. So if you didn't get the full amount, then you must know that you either phased out or your income eligibility was assessed based on either your your most recent file tax return. Okay, so you want to keep all of those things in mind. Another thing that I want to note is if you are one of those individuals who did not get your first stimulus payment or your second stimulus payment, you're still able to recoup that credit and receive it in the form of a refund. Okay, so if you didn't receive the first one or the second one, and you can prove that you're actually eligible, and really when we file your return, your income will let us know if you're eligible. So if last year your 2019 tax return was over a certain limit, but in 2020, things went down a little bit and your income reduced, you would still be able to basically recoup that difference between what you initially got and what you're ultimately eligible for based on your most recent tax return. Okay, so that is pretty much it for the stimulus payment eligibility. And don't forget, that's the rebate credit. And I ask each and every one of my clients, have you received it? Because we don't want to leave any money on the table, right? We want to make sure that we take advantage of as much as we can. Okay, so the next part is the unemployment compensation. Now, the first thing to note is that this has been extended to September 6th, okay? In the past, they only extended it up to March 14th, which was 2 days ago. And right now, through the rescue plan, it's been extended to September 6th, okay? Now, they didn't get to increase it to $400, so it remains at $300 per week through that period, okay? Now, the big changer within this situation, within this component really, is the fact that if you are eligible, the first $10,200 of your unemployment compensation will not be taxable. What eligible means is your adjusted gross income needs to be below $150,000 for the tax year 2020. Now, this $10,200 non-taxable portion of your unemployment compensation is retroactive to your 2020. So the question then becomes, well, Rose, if I already found my tax return, what does that mean for me? What should I do? Should I amend? Well, hold on there. We don't want to act prematurely in this case because here's the thing. While these laws and regulations were being put in place, there weren't any guidance coming right behind it. So it's a matter of law pass and then we have to scramble to get the guidance, okay? So as of right now, do not act prematurely and amend your return. You want to basically hold on and wait a little bit because two scenarios could take place. The IRS could say, well, tax preparers, go ahead and amend those return and reflect the changes, or they can go ahead and reconcile it on their end, meaning whatever happened with your, say, refund or taxes that you owed, what would essentially happen once they adjust this 10,200 is that you would receive back a portion of what you may have paid in taxes or an increase to the amount that you already received. Okay, so as of right now, don't rush. Just hold on just a second. Let a little bit more guidance come out before you amend your return. And certainly, if you're one who do need to amend your return after this point, after we receive the guidance, certainly reach out and let me know so that we can work together and get you to that point where you can get back some money in your pocket, right? All right. So the next part here is the child tax credit. Now, let's talk about a child tax credit briefly of what it normally is. So typically, if you have a child under the age of 17, they're worth up to $2,000. And that $2,000 is partially refundable. So a portion of it can give you a direct refund, while a portion can only offset your tax liability, okay? So that's the first thing to note. Now, the impact through this rescue plan basically temporarily expanded this child tax credit to not only being partially refundable, but now being fully refundable. But as of right now, only for 2021. As of right now, things are changing rapidly. So we have to keep these sorts of things in mind. So here's how the increase work. So remember I said, if a child is under the age of 17, they're worth up to $2,000, right? For this purpose, the eligibility of the child really is based on their age in this case. They split it up basically in two parts. So if your child is 5 years old or younger, they are worth $3,600. So that's $1,600 more than what you would have claimed for them in the past. So you went from $2,000 to $3,600. Now, if that child is between the age of 7 and 17, that amount then becomes $3,000. So you went from $2,000 to $3,000. Now, remember I said normally that children would have to be under the age of 17. This bill basically extended a year out to allow you to claim a child at 17 and get that full credit for them, okay? So here's how it's going to work. And it gets pretty tricky, so I want you to lean in and grasp as much of this information as possible, okay? So what's going to happen is starting somewhere around July thereabout, the IRS will start sending out what is called advanced periodic payment. Now, remember I said each child, depending on their age, is worth a certain amount. And I'll give you an example of how that works. But basically, you're going to give you half for the remainder of this year and half of what you're eligible for when you file your 2021 tax return, okay? So let's look at an example. Let's say you have two dependents who are under the age of 5, and then you have one, say, age 15, okay? So each of those two little ones, they're worth $3,600 each. So that gives you a total of $7,200 for them. Now, your child who's 15 years old, they're worth $3,000, okay? So when you put those amounts together, you get $10,200 in child tax credit, okay? And remember, they're giving you half of what you're totally eligible for. Starting July, they'll give you the periodic payments, and when you file your 2021 tax return, they'll reconcile it. So that means off that $10,200, you'll get $5,100 throughout the rest of this year, and then $5,100 when you file your return, okay? And they're basing this upon your most recent tax return. Here is the pickle in all of this. Let's say your situation changed, and it could be a change as one of your 5-year-olds turned 6, or your 17-year-old turned 18 this year. That's a change. And what's going to happen is, if you experience a change in situation that made you eligible for this actual credit, you would then have to repay it. So everything that I'm noting, the impact may not seem huge right now, but later down in the future, it will have a role in what's going on with your taxes. Because this year, the refund may be large, or throughout the year. Next year, it may not be the case. So I really encourage everyone to go through their return with their preparer. Actually extend this to all my clients to allow them the opportunity to review their tax return with me, so that literally we are in the classroom. You understand exactly what's going on with your tax return, and it's not oh, that happened or this happened. No, we're on the same page here, so that next year, when different things are happening, you understand why that's happening. Okay, with these changes, you want to make sure that you're staying on top of things, especially if you have to repay back any portion of these credits. So plan accordingly. If you have a child who's in any of these age group, okay, you want to make sure that you're planning accordingly. All right. Perfect. So the last piece here is the earned income tax credit. So the impact here is that they slightly increase the eligibility age and an individual and the amount that they can claim, right? So let's say, for example, in 2020, the amount that a single person, and let me backtrack there a little bit. In order to claim the earned income tax credit, your income has to be in a certain threshold, and you have to have, it depends on how many dependents you have. So 3, 2, 1, or if you have no dependent, but you can still qualify, okay? So while, for example, 2020, that earned income tax credit, if you're single with no dependent, you could have claimed the maximum amount, if you're eligible, of $543. Now, the increase based on this rescue plan is almost 3 times that, right? So you're going from $543 to $1,002. That's almost 3 times what you would have ordinarily got in the prior year. So here's the next thing. Think about it. If you are, say, head of household, you have 3 children, and your income is in a certain threshold, giving you the opportunity to claim this particular credit. In the past, for example, you may have received $5,000 in earned income tax credit. It's possible. For 2021, it could be almost 3 times that. I mean, that's a lot of money. So with that being said, I really want all of us to think about all this money that's coming in, because really over the next year, couple of months, the government is going to be releasing some serious funds into our pockets, okay? So you want to make sure that you're planning accordingly. If you are taking unemployment compensation, if you need to adjust your tax withholding because you know that the first $10,200 is not taxable dependent on your eligibility, right? So that was a lot that I covered. If you have questions, let me know. And don't forget that there is continuous guidance being sent out regarding this new bill that was signed last week, okay? So there's a lot going on there. And for some people, of course, it's going to be normal to be a little bit confused, but we want to make sure awareness is key here. We want to make sure that understanding is there as best as possible. So if you have any questions, you know where to find me, okay?